It's 10 p.m. in Banjul, and from our studios on MDI Road, this is the news. But first, the headlines. President Jammeh returns to the country after attending the 48th ordinary session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS held in Nigeria. Vice President Dr. Aja Aissatou Saidi met the garment community in Guinea on the sidelines of the inauguration of President Alpha Conde's second term in office. European Union leaders debate over protracted issues relating to ways of redistributing millions of refugees seeking better lives in Europe. And home rental service hit the roof in Japan's elite cities as thousands of visitors scamper for places at a time the country is preparing for mega international sporting events. Well, viewers, these and other stories coming ahead this half hour. I am TENENG GITTEH. Welcome back. The 48th ordinary session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS ended in the Nigerian capital on Thursday, with sub-regional leaders reaffirming their resolve to tackle the multiple challenges confronting the sub-regional economic grouping, not least security. The summit, as Keba Deba explains, was held in the context of the organization's 40th anniversary.
The summit's timing was deliberate to coincide with the 40th anniversary of the founding of what current sub-regional leaders describe as one of the continent's most successful regional economic blocs. The Treaty of Lagos of May 1975 was very much informed by challenging identical problems, common values, and a shared destiny. In a polarized world where simmering geopolitical tensions and ideological feuds continue to pose the greatest threat to global peace and security. General Yakub Gowon, the former Nigerian head of state and one of the founding fathers, reflects.
We were motivated by the success of similar regional blocs in Europe and America, as well as in African continent, where then the East African community was alive and well. In spite of the critical socialist versus capitalist ideological differences amongst our nations and the military versus democratic orientation of these countries, the willpower, the love, the understanding among the ECOWAS founding fathers was so electrifying.
It is exactly 40 years ago that the founding fathers of this sub-regional economic bloc assigned themselves the responsibility of fostering regional integration and expediting the process of economic development in West Africa. But 4 decades on now, there isn't much to write home about in this regard, in a sub-region where armed conflict and insecurity remain formidable obstacles. With changing times and evolving circumstances, change itself was required both in strategy and in the order of priorities. From security or the lack of it to health, infrastructure and energy, democracy and good governance to communication and climate change, youth and women's empowerment to transnational and maritime crimes, and now the rising scourge of terrorism. Sub-regional leaders call for concerted action and the right types of policies and strategies to deal with what they call difficult but not insurmountable challenges. Economic integration is still very much a priority, but security is perhaps an overriding one in the face of real and gathering threats across the sub-region and beyond.
I think we were banking on foreign help. The foreigners that we are expecting to come and help have more than enough on their plate. But we all have armies. Why can't we start something and then expect others to help us, rather than our effort being complementary to foreign intervention? So this is the problem that we have in ECOWAS today. But terrorism has to be taken very seriously. It has to be taken very seriously.
But in Abuja, there was a palpable sense of determination and optimism, counting on the successes registered over the last 4 decades against considerable odds. A momentum has been created and it must be built on, as outlined by the current chairperson and President of the Republic of Senegal, Macky Sall. Democracy and good governance have improved significantly with free, fair, and transparent elections and peaceful democratic transitions, free movement of citizens, the containment of the Ebola outbreak, and more importantly, the peaceful resolution of crises in the sub-region. More recent examples being Burkina Faso and Guinea-Bissau. The ECOWAS Commission President, Grts Ouadraogo, singled out President Jammeh and 2 other sub-regional leaders for their initiative and effort in peacefully resolving the Guinea-Bissau crisis. At the continental level, it's a similar scenario of a mixed bag, as outlined by the African Union chairperson. Growth over the last decade was good, averaging 6%, but not inclusive. 37 countries remain at the bottom of the 2015 UN Human Development Index. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma told sub-regional leaders to invest more in their people.
We must therefore ask ourselves the question as Africans, how can we change this situation in Africa where we have land, we have water, we have forests, we have oceanic resources, we have minerals, oil, gas, as well as human capital in abundance, and yet Africans remain poor.
At the end of the 2-day deliberation, the leaders once again acknowledged the challenges, but more importantly, reaffirmed their resolve in confronting them. In this regard, structural and institutional reforms will be pursued at the level of the ECOWAS Commission to adjust to the new realities of the moment, formulating the right type of policies and strategies, and realigning priorities. Keba Diva, GRTS, Abuja.
The President, His Excellency Sheikh Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya Ejeje Jammeh Babli Mensah, and a high-powered delegation returned to Banjul on Thursday evening after attending the 48th ordinary session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, and a grand celebration of the 40th anniversary of the ECOWAS Economic Community of West African States, in Abuja, Nigeria. Shortly after landing at the Banjul International Airport, Professor Jammeh spoke to waiting reporters.
Good morning, Your Excellency, and thank you for granting us this interview. And we will first of all welcome you back, and upon successfully attending the 48th ordinary session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of States, and which also saw the 40th anniversary of the regional bloc. So, Your Excellency, we would like you to share with us some of the top issues that took center stage during the course of the meeting.
Well, the main topic, what dominated the discussion, is about Boko Haram and terrorism in West Africa, because it's spreading so fast, and they're becoming also stronger and more sophisticated. So this was a major problem and then a major item of the agenda. Now, how do we solve this problem? Because you have twin problems. Remember when in Dakar I told them that we should do something about Mali, the coup in Mali, intervene and put an end to everything before it blows out of proportion. They didn't listen to me. The French said they don't want war in Mali. They don't want a military intervention. Who are they if it is not their colony anyway? And then the Malian president then said he doesn't want an ECOWAS. And when they went back home, they instigated a demonstration against the intervention of ECOMOG. And I told them that you will regret this, because something else is coming that, ECOMOG will not be able to handle. Then the Tuareg rebellion, and then ACME and others, until they were almost about to take Bamako. And then the French went without even consulting ECOWAS. They went and bombed them, but throughout the bombing, nobody can see the dead body of a single rebel. All what we saw were bombed out, all military vehicles that were captured from the Malian army. Now, they said they ended the war. But they didn't kill rebels. Those who died were killed by the Chadian troops. Now, what about the rest of the armed groups that were there? They just melted into thin air with their weapons. And that is why Mali now is having a problem. ECOMOG doesn't have the capacity to go into the mountains or in the desert to fight them. And the French also do not want to go into the mountains on foot and then get killed. So you have this Tuareg still there, and other terrorist groups still there, under some sort of pseudo agreement. And now then you have the Boko Haram. They never took Boko Haram seriously. Now Boko Haram is harassing Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Nigeria itself. Now, how can we today say we're going to deploy against Boko Haram and those in Mali? Already we have a contingent in Mali on armies, I think. But that's not enough. Now, Nigeria is fighting the terrorists on their own. What is the use of ECOMOG? It's not only in fact, terrorism is an armed rebellion. But nobody talks about at least us forming a unit to go and fight the terrorists. I help Nigeria fight the terrorists. But I think we were banking on foreign help. The foreigners that we are expecting to come and help have more than enough on their plate. But we all have armies. Why can't we start something and then expect others to help us, rather than our effort being complementary to foreign intervention? So this is the problem that we have in ECOWAS today. But terrorism has to be taken very seriously. It has to be taken very seriously. And so ECOWAS has realized that, because without security there cannot be trade. They were talking about regional integration, free movement of goods and persons. Now in some countries in this ECOWAS member states, trucks cannot move at night. Even during the day they cannot move because of terrorism. So now that means terrorism is going to make sure that we don't even trade amongst ourselves. And that will be a disaster.
The prospects for the ECOWAS?
I believe in the Almighty Allah, and I believe that we will solve all these problems and emerge victorious. Don't think that we're going to lose to terrorism. We are not going to lose. Are you asking me whether we have anything to celebrate? I think so, because, well, one thing that we can celebrate is the fact that ECOWAS citizens move from one place to another free of charge, and then transfer problems from one area to another. But in terms of infrastructure, there's nothing to celebrate. But this time around, a lot of emphasis is on infrastructure development. Traveling within West Africa, can you understand that your DG left on Monday to go to Nigeria? Did you know that I reached before him? He left on Monday and I left on Tuesday, almost at night. So you see, he had to go to Senegal, Benin, Togo, then from Togo, Ghana, then Ghana to Lagos, Lagos to Abuja. So you see, travel is a very big problem. And there's no way there can be development without an effective, efficient means of communication. And this is one area that they are focused on. But unfortunately, we're not banking on our resources. We are banking on donors to come and finance this infrastructure development, which are vital. So infrastructure development, everybody knows that now that is a major issue. And of course, now everybody also knows that without electricity, if you can remember, all the time I was talking about nobody focusing on energy. Now everybody is talking about energy, and then it is on the agenda, and a lot of investment has been made in energy. And of course also the Lagos to somewhere pipeline, gas pipeline is in effect being built. So maybe 5 years, 10 years from now, you can travel by train from here to any ECOWAS capital. This is what we are hopeful about, because we have donors that have the money. They are not imperialists, and so they say they will be financing all these projects. And God knows, though it's not my priority, but we may have a bridge from Barra to Banjul. But that's not a priority for me.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes.
Good morning, Your Excellency. And
President Jammeh Babli Mansa speaking to reporters shortly after returning from Nigeria. The Vice President, Her Excellency Ajah Dr. Atidunjai Saidi, had an audience with the garment community in Guinea on the sidelines of the inauguration of President Alpha Condé. The group was led by Gambia's consulate Alhaji Muhammadu Sise. As we hear in this report by Madeleine Baji, the Vice President called on Gambians to remain law-abiding in foreign lands.
While in Guinea to attend the inauguration of President Condé, Madam Jai Saidi took time to meet the Gambian community residing in the country. The group was led by an official of the Gambian consulate, Alhaji Muhammadu Sise. Addressing the gathering, Madam Jai Saidi dilated on the importance of being law-abiding and respecting the laws of the land as an immigrant. She reminded them of their obligation to remain true ambassadors of the homeland, the Gambia. The Vice President noted that they are an important stakeholder in maintaining and further solidifying the friendly ties that exist between the two countries. The Vice President also spoke of the importance President Jammeh attaches to African integration. Furthermore, Madam Jai Saidi told the gathering to remember that as patriotic Gambians, they have a role to play in the socio-economic development of the country. She seized the opportunity to thank all Gambians in the diaspora who continually complement development efforts of the government in various ways. For his part, Muhammadu Sise, who is a native of Mahmud Fana, noted that they have all successfully integrated in Guinean society. This, he said, can be attributed to the excellent relations that President Jammeh has built with the government of Guinea. Sise explained that some of them have been living in Guinea for over 3 decades. He praised the authorities and people of Guinea for their hospitality, noting that they feel welcome and at home. Muhammad Tarawale, a resident of Basse Santasu, said even though they're living outside the country, they remain committed to the development of the Gambia. He spoke of their desire to actively participate in nation building. Various speakers expressed similar sentiments while lauding President Jammeh's leadership qualities. They all praised the Gambian leader for the development strides registered in the country. As a goodwill gesture, the community handed over a CD recorded by Jali Suzo and his wife Nyima Konde for onward delivery to Professor Jammeh. The song, whose production was funded by the community, pays tribute to President Jammeh. They also presented a bull to the Vice President. Madam Jai Saidi reciprocated the gesture by donating the bull back to them. She asked them to make a sumptuous meal and enjoy. Madam Jai Saidi had earlier given the group a token of money to use as transport. The gathering was entertained by Jali and his wife. Reporting for GRTS News, I am Madeleine Baji.
It has come to the attention of the Office of the Registrar General that some cable operators within the Greater Banjul area and other parts of the Gambia are allegedly engaged in the commercial transmission of the English Premiership League matches using the BN Media Group smart cards. It is our information that the alleged perpetrators have not obtained licenses from the component authority, nor do they have the approval of BN Media Group, who have the exclusive pay rights to broadcast the English Premiership League matches in the Middle East and Northern African region. The Office of the Registrar General wishes to remind all those concerned that the distribution of program carrying signals not bound for the Gambia and for which permission has not been sought from the right holders is tantamount to a violation of the Copyright Act of the Gambia 2014. The perpetrators are hereby reminded that their activities not only prejudice the legitimate interests of the registered businesses, but also cause revenue loss to the Gambia, since they do not pay tax for their alleged illegal activities. In light of the above, the Office of the Registrar General hereby advises all those engaged on who intend to engage in the alleged illegal business to cease and desist from the unauthorized importation, sale and distribution of BN Media Group smart cards and decoders in the Gambia with immediate effect, or else they will be prosecuted accordingly. The cooperation of all concerned is therefore highly solicited. The release ends. The Ministry of Fisheries, in collaboration with the Sub-Regional Fisheries Commission and the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, they have Thursday held a two-day meeting on fisheries stakeholders and the Fisheries Regulation Amendment Act 2015 held in Bijilo. Janke Ture reports.
The Gambia economic base, relying heavily on its agriculture and related natural resources to provide livelihoods for over 60% of the Gambians. Although it has a shortest Atlantic coastline, about 80 kilometers, the Gambia has an important fish resource. It is for this reason that the Ministry of Fisheries, in collaboration with the Sub-Regional Fisheries Commission and the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, recently held a two-day consultative meeting on fisheries policy coherence and sensitization on fisheries regulation. The objective of this meeting is to establish a national committee on fisheries policy coherence for the Gambia and to define the practical modalities of the said committee.
Countries in the sub-region, particularly the member state of the Sub-Regional Fisheries Commission, use of marine living resources, especially fisheries, is an important industry and is one of the major supplier of animal protein.
According to Matarba, this meeting will henceforth be essential of the implementing indicators for monitoring fisheries policy coherence, both at national and regional levels.
For more than a decade, the fisheries sector in our sub-region is faced with many challenges, mainly unreported, unregulated, and illegal fishing by both artisanal and industrial fisheries sector, thereby contributing to overexploitation of fisheries and other marine resources. Consequences of IUU fishing are the scarcity of fish. In light of the above, the establishment of this fisheries coherence committee is timely and is well overdue. It will enhance the Gambia to effectively strengthening conservation and management of our fisheries resources.
In accordance with its strategic plan 2012 to 2015 and in line with the previous recommendations came in 2007 to establish a regional committee on policy coherence, the SRFC has launched the process that will lead to the setting up a regional framework with the objective to follow up and look at a coherent fisheries policy. The committee is expected to bring all stakeholders, which will serve as a consultative framework to advise on the improvement of fisheries governance. Jenaba Bay Trawale, while giving her opening remarks on behalf of the Sub-Regional Fisheries Commission, explained some of the missions of SRFC as well as the challenges they encountered during the year 2013.
As you may know, a mission of the SRFC visited Banjul in May 2013 to make a diagnostic of the state of the fisheries policy and to develop indicators on the consistency of fisheries policy in the Gambia. The purpose of the 2013 mission was to launch the process that would lead to the establishment of the National Committee on Fisheries Policy Coherence, to identify and develop in participatory manner with all stakeholders in close coordination with the staff of the Department of Fisheries, the coherence indicators to follow up the fisheries policy.
However, the final meeting on the reverse fisheries regulation for the stakeholders was held on Friday, a meeting point where participants discussed the contribution and sensitization of the actors on the important legal instrument for the Gambia. Janke Ture, GRTS.
The Minister of Environment, Climate Change, Forestry, Parks and Wildlife, Pa Usman Jaju, on Wednesday presided over the opening of a two-day validation forum on a revised National Action Program to combat desertification. The document, as envisaged in the UN Convention, is designed to combat desertification. Kedito Jallo has more on that.
Globally, an estimated 1.97 billion hectares of all usable land have been affected by various forms of human-induced land degradation, in which the Gambia is no exception.
This workshop is one indication of our commitment to the United Nations Convention to combat desertification. Article 9 of the Convention determines that the elaboration and implementation of national action programs are the central elements of the strategy to combat desertification and mitigate the effects of drought, thus making their preparation and application fundamental to the attainment of its objectives.
The success of the document to be validated and get added will depend on a process-oriented approach that builds on effective partnership and mainstreaming of strategic land management policies to tackle poverty. Mamadou Suare of the National Environment Agency said investing in land stewardship is essential to sustaining the multitude of global environment benefits.
Land degradation is a major threat to biodiversity, ecosystem stability, and society's ability to function. Because of the interconnectivity between ecosystems across scales, land degradation triggers destructive processes that can have catastrophic effect across the entire biosphere. Loss of biomass through vegetation clearance and increased soil erosion produce greenhouse gases that contribute to global warming and climate change.
The Minister of Environment, Climate Change, Water, Forestry, Parks and Wildlife, Pa Usman Jaju, said the Gambia has been implementing various programs and projects to combat land degradation since the Sahelian drought of 1970.
This revised National Action Program provides opportunity for the country to take stock of existing measures, consolidate actions to combat land degradation in a more strategic and holistic manner. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an undisputed fact that the Gambia land resources are at a risk of irreversible degradation under current land management and land use practices.
The two-day convergence is set to provide stakeholders the chance to review the document, which will in turn help provide the best possible strategic plans geared toward promoting improved livelihood and reduce poverty through sustainable land management practices. Khadijatu Jallo, GRTS News.
The next Operation Clean the Nation is slated for Saturday, 19th December 2015. A news release from the National Environment Agency states that, in this regard, all governors, Sefolu, Alkalolu, ward councillors, women organizations, and government institutions are therefore reminded that a strong presidential directive has been issued requiring all of them to organize and fully participate in the next national cleanup exercise within their respective jurisdictions. There will be mass inspection of premises, areas of business, etc. by inspectors from NEA, Gambia Police Force, and other stakeholders immediately after the exercise, and those found wanting would be prosecuted accordingly. The NEA wishes you all a Merry Christmas and a happy, prosperous 2016. The release ends. Up next, Japan is trying to adjust with the increasing demand for housing. This as the country prepared to host mega sporting events. And find out how European Union leaders are reacting to calls for refugees to be redistributed right after this break.
As part of activities marking the Gambia's Golden Jubilee, the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education presents the finals of the Miss 22nd July Scholarship Pageant 2015. The Miss 22nd July Scholarship Pageant showcases the talents of young people through academic excellence, brains, and beauty. It is a unique opportunity for participants to win a scholarship from bachelor's degree, master's to PhD level. The theme for this year is educating and empowering girls for a prosperous Gambia, striving for food self-sufficiency for sustainable development. Under the distinguished patronage of His Excellency the President of the Republic of the Gambia, Sheikh Professor Dr. Alhaji Yahya Ejj Jame Babili Mansa, joined the organizing committee of the Miss 22nd July Scholarship Pageant with the finals happening live at Jembe Beach Hotel, former German, on Saturday, December 19, 2015, commencing at 8 p.m. Tickets, students, $300, ordinary, $500, patron, $1,000, and dedicatees, $2,500. Performing artists include Yusuf Angom, Sajo Suso, Manding Mori, and Abuan Fafa. Main sponsors, Mopsy, Mohast, GPA, Nawek. Co-sponsors, MDI, Moisi, GRTS, GTTI, Nifty ICT Solutions. For information on tickets, contact 999-1684 or 342-6335.
Welcome back. Leaders at the European Union Summit in Brussels have pledged new EU border protection force at the summit. They also expanded on the ways of securing borders and redistributing refugees. As of now, everything else, including redistributing refugees, is taking a slow pace.
It was a determined-looking David Cameron who arrived for a second day of talks. Over dinner last night, he laid out plans for EU reforms, including a freeze on benefits for EU migrants, and he said it went well.
There is momentum. There was enormous support in the room for finding changes to keep Britain in the United Kingdom in the European Union.
But the main topics on the agenda, securing Europe's borders and redistributing refugees. The topics have driven a wedge between many EU members. There are still approximately 4,000 migrants a day arriving on Greek shores. A permanent relocation mechanism within the European Union seems farther away than ever. So far, only about 200 migrants have been relocated out of the intended 160,000. The EU Commission President said securing the outer border will take time. It's a legislative procedure, so we need 6 months. In the meantime, we do what we agreed, to redistribute the refugees. I'm optimistic that we can do that, but the issue today, as it was yesterday, will be how to protect our borders. Another area where there is agreement is cooperation with Turkey to keep migrants from reaching European shores. Everything else, from registration centres to redistribution, is moving along at a snail's pace. All I can say is that we have to keep on talking about it. Those countries that don't have refugees might be overlooking the danger of losing the freedoms that are so dear to us. But our constant consultations have helped to have a very matter-of-fact mood.
Die gesamte Atmosphäre, würde ich sagen, sehr versachlicht.
So at the last summit of the year, the German Chancellor kept trying to chip away at Europe's internal divisions, but there hasn't been real progress in months. Many in Europe are pinning their hopes on a new coalition of the willing that is slowly emerging. It met again on Thursday before the actual summit. It's not in the European spirit of consensus, but it just might be the only thing that works.
Japan is expecting to take in a record 19 million international visitors by the year's end, coupled with 8 million visitors expected for the 2020 Olympics. It is running into some opposition traps as home rental service is on the rise in Japan. CNN's Will Ripley reports.
breakfast in Tokyo.
We are making pancakes.
A cooking lesson for Canadian student Yalini Veratharajda on a 9-day Japanese vacation.
They're really precious moments because I get to be with my host.
Financial advisor Yumie Mori rents out a room in her apartment for around $40 a night using the website Airbnb.
The room is almost full all the time.
She averages 10 guests a month from all over the world.
We give them a local experience like cooking together, but at the same time, we get inspired by the guest.
That cultural exchange is part of the Airbnb sales pitch. The $25 billion rental site boasts 60 million guests, 1.5 million listings in 34,000 cities. But here in Japan, Airbnb faces challenges. Short-term rentals often violate local law. Most people don't speak English, and on this island nation, many are unfamiliar with foreigners, never mind hosting them in their homes. Some communities are banning vacation rentals altogether. Tokyo's Brilia Mare Ariake has upscale amenities, prime views, and a strict residents-only policy. So essentially what you're saying is you don't want this place to turn into a hotel. Exactly, says resident representative Daisuke Hoshikawa. A hotel is where the public stays. We want to keep this place exclusive. Airbnb is catching on in Japan. 21,000 listings since 2010. The number of guests up 500% over last year. Konnichiwa. The biggest draws, a good location, clean, comfy bed, and Wi-Fi. So this is the guest room? Yeah. Dioma and Mihoko Machida say the most common complaint about foreigners in Japan, noise. But quiet, courteous guests have actually made friends with their neighbors.
That kind of guests change Japanese minds.
Yeah, that's right.
Machida even started a business, managing dozens of listings and selling local art to tourists. With 8 million visitors expected for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics and a record number of foreign tourists this year, a small but growing number of Japanese are listing their homes. No. Around some tables, hosts and guests profiting from the experience. Will Ripley, CNN, Tokyo.
Well, we now shift our attention to the day's weather outlook, courtesy of the Central Forecast Office. We'll be right back.
The Gambia is endowed with a wonderful landscape full of baobab trees. Like its Cape Point in Bakau, it is one of the most exotic sceneries in the world. The baobab tree is a symbol of resilience, wisdom, and resourcefulness. For the baobab tree provides good food in times of hunger, rents its bark for medications, and its sap for glue. In the Gambia, there is a company like the baobab tree, 100% African and purely Gambian in all aspects. In know-how, design, value, capital, and management. That company is Elton. Elton, employing hundreds of Gambians and proudly associating itself with development in the Gambia. Elton, side by side with the Gambia.
Hello viewers, welcome to the weather forecast. Has been partly cloudy and warm during the afternoon. Satellite picture indicates convective activities over parts of southern Africa. These activities will lead to rain and thunderstorm over the affected areas. For tonight's focus, the weather is expected to be relatively cool, slightly hazy and occasional breezy. Similar conditions will persist until tomorrow morning, thereafter becoming relatively warm and variable cloudy in the afternoon. Surface winds will remain northeasterlies in orientation with a speed of 5 to 15 kilometers per hour. Morning temperatures will be 17 degrees Celsius over Greater Banjul and West Coast, 16 over North Bank, whilst 14 degrees Celsius over Lower River region, 12 degrees Celsius will be experienced over Central and Upper River regions. Afternoon temperatures will be 30 degrees over the Greater Banjul area, 33 over North Bank and West Coast, whilst 34 degrees Celsius over Lower River region. Central and Upper River regions will experience a temperature of 35 degrees Celsius. Low tides will be 0.4 meter at 10 a.m. and 0.6 meter at 10 p.m. while high tides will be 1.6 meters at 3 a.m. and 1.4 meters at 4 p.m. The sun will rise at 7:23 in the morning and will set at 18:40 in the evening. We thank you for watching and have a blessed evening.
Well, it looks like a beautiful day ahead. With that, we come to the end of this newscast. But before we take leave of you, a recap of our day's main stories. President Jammeh has returned to the country after attending the 48th ordinary session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS held in Nigeria. Vice President Dr. Grts Sedi has met the Gambian community in Guinea on the sidelines of the inauguration of President Alpha Conde's second term in office. European Union leaders debate over protracted issues relating to ways of redistributing millions of refugees seeking better lives in Europe. And home rental service is hitting the roof in Japan's elite cities as thousands of visitors camp for places at a time the country is preparing for mega international sports events. Well, viewers, that was all in this edition of the news. Thanks for the place of your company. Do stay with us, and I'm your presenter, TENENG GITTEH.